So this is the entryway to the start of the exhibition, which really just gives some oversight, stats including Guinness World Records, and, well, where it stands in the history. Behind me is the introductory video for the 25th anniversary and a nice little note from Richard Garfield. First thing we see when we walk in is a total history of magic for Japan, from every year, with every moment, along with personal signatures that they had here from different events that they had. So as you go through, you'll find everything from pro player news to creative information to even some of the very Japanese-only specific things like this novel or comic books that had alternate covers. So that's the back wall. As we move into this next space, this space right here explains every set. So every set's from Magic's history right here. You can see 1993 to 1995, old expansion. And it explains each set with actual cards sleeved behind lucite plastic. This is actually nailed into the wall. And in doing so, they have information in both Japanese and English, and a little piece on each card, obviously just in Japanese because we're in Japan. As we go through, each one has that. What's really notable about every set, as every single one of these walls here, is we chose pieces in here that reflected future art show pieces. So here, we have Morphling, and Morphling is in the art show. Likewise, down here, we can see Masticore. Masticore is also in the art show. So, there's also some very Japanese-specific items, which we have here. This is some of the tokens that they had for special issues and special editions in like their magazines, which is a really interesting thing to see added in, as well as information from some old magazines they have with iPads. I thought that was great. The loud noise you're hearing are marquee events from Magic's history at a Pro Tour level. And you can see this multimedia display here and a table where people can sit and take selfies to be pros. It's kind of a neat concept, and people were staring at that for quite some time. Over here, you can see the last couple sets as we get more current with things. Next up in this exhibition is these are monumental decks. Decks that were very significant in Magic's history. So here we have Prosperous Bloom, and the whole deck is here. Whole deck. All real cards. And underneath, there's little quotes of these or information on them from some people that were part of it. I think that's the most personal part. I think it's really well done. And I think for future exhibitions, having someone's full deck on there, including which basic lands they chose, because obviously choosing basic lands is a very personal thing, shown, I think is a really great idea. So by having these at a future exhibition, say even a museum to make it a history exhibition, we should do this again. Transitioning from that space, which is really the history of Magic itself, into current view, is this planeswalking area where there's mirrors and digital art, including a large screen projected backwards that you can see digital art, and it slowly moves if you watch long enough. And by having this here, it lets us have a digital artwork in that art space without interrupting the rest of the pieces. So, art space, we will get to the paintings in a second. Behind me, we have the Power 9. They had some alphas on loan to get here, which is really, really fun that people can see them up close, see what the coloration looks like, because obviously alpha and beta coloring of even like the borders, very, very different. Okay, so into the art show. First pieces that we have, significant dragon, kind of a big deal. Only in Japan is this, and it's the original framing, because obviously Chris Rush signed the actual frame. None of these things are supposed to be photographed or touched, which is a good addition. And we have Phoenix Heart here, significant promo card. Now, art show. This is the section I worked on. And above me, you can see the Ravnica. They have projectors up top. We brought in all of the artworks here. These are all from collectors or artists that were willing to loan the works for the show. These pieces we tried to find significant works from Magic's history that had everything from Lightning Helix, which won games by itself, including some of the biggest ones, to the largest piece in Japan that they always want to see, and that's Descendants Path. This is in their top 10 most significant artworks to the Japanese community. They voted on it, had a big survey, and they said, yep, Descendants Path is the thing. People really don't have always a great reason why. It just is. It's kind of neat to see. So as we move on, we tried to find other pieces that were significant to gameplay. Obviously, Wrath of God, Imperial Armor, which was also saw a lot of play, which was also in the wall as a card. And here, this section is the whole Weatherlight crew. So luckily, one collector decided to loan every piece from that. And I know the video is a little grainy here, but you could see, you know, we have Joyer here from one person, and then we have Squee, Karn, Rofellos, Skyship Weatherlight, the promo one, Miri by Darren Bader, which was in Spectrum, the promo Towngarth, and of course, Korvax the Cursed. It's fun to see that collection of pieces because that was the original Gatewatch crew of sorts. Moving on, significant to Japan, we have Jen Ravenna's The Elvis Reborn using the correct washi paper with the right inking. This piece has significance only in Japan, greater than other countries. It's a very cool piece, but here it gains the meaning. Next to it, we put Stormcrow, because of course we would. We brought in the Guru Land, as all 5 are in Japan. One piece was lent to the show, and people really enjoyed seeing it, mainly for the thickness of paint and things in there. I know it's hard to see, but it's kind of fun to see. We found all 3 APAC lands to add here. People loved seeing those significant works. The 2 big constructed playable cards, obviously Morphling and Lynn Civi by Randy Post. People really looked a lot. On the end, of course, we leave with Polluted Delta. It's a smaller work, but it allows people a little more time because it's right at the end here. On the other side, that lead in, we have a little more current works with Merfolk Trickster by Jesper Icing, the Popper All-Star, Cloud of Fairy, Platinum Angel by Brahm. We wanted to make sure we had significant artists and not all from the same artist or group of artists. Even putting stylistically different pieces there, from Ben Thompson to Wayne Reynolds, going very static to very loose and dynamic. Masticore is the thing next to it, so we have a high significant card and then interesting juxtaposition of cards. Right next to 3 watercolors from Drew Tucker, all from the dark, very fun works. Brain Freeze is next to it, juxtaposing the 3 little paintings to the one giant one with the beveled mat. And these were all from one collector. So Phone Disenchant by Brian Snowdy, Heather Hart's Karmic Guide, Doug Gregory's really beautiful Lifeline work. Personal Tutor was in Japan, which so gracious to loan it. Loved seeing the actual promo when they actually won it at the tournament. To even having a few with cards in it, I think really helped the show. Added another Therese, another piece from Doug, and another from Rebecca Gay. I think the art show really worked in the space, and as you can see above me, you can see that it isn't a gigantic space, but it is enough space that people will have room to examine works without being crowded. And that loud noise you're hearing now are the 2 videos that were made. One was made by the director of Akira, and the other was made by one of the animators for Naruto. I could post those in a few, but not supposed to really post them. But you can definitely hear them. It's right there. As we go to the later part of the exhibition, this large room here was perfect for people to watch the 2 different trailers and then move into their actual key art, which you could see how they made the pieces in there. So for example, you know, here's something close to Chandra there. I thought that worked out really well. It brought in a outside audience to the crew, seeing how outside people could engage with Magic. Right behind me is the collage. Again, you can see more Ravnica art shown above. This collage was made specifically for this show. Really, really beautiful piece. And they made playmats out of it. They made sleeves out of it. They made phone cases. And people really enjoyed seeing it. I just think it's a nice, interesting artwork to add as an installation. The final room that we have, which is right across on the collage, is the Ravnica room. This Ravnica room showed all 10 guilds on the wall, because obviously we were heading into Guilds of Ravnica, and had pieces on each guild. So, for example, here is Exorius, talked about the guild a little bit, talked about the concept art, talked about what that meant for character, what it meant for actual weaponry, what it meant for the actual design, and some other just really loose pieces there. People loved this part, and they could find each of their own individual guilds using the concept art, whether digital, color, or not. You know, that would be, is it? Behind me is Rakdos. We can see the mushroom dresses of Golgari. We can see the girl clans. And I know I'm not giving this in full because we're not supposed to be even shooting here. But Boros there worked out really well. Selesnya, my guild. And then Simic on the end. The other pieces that I've been walking through here are all pieces from the style guide talking about each guild. And pieces that were important to the story or unable to be shown were redacted according to each guild. So for example, Selesnya here, for pieces that could not be seen, they put in moss to hide those parts. Very thematic. And likewise, for the Simic, they actually put in little pieces of blue goo, which I thought was really, really fun. So each one had it. So Rakdos had blood. It was a black bar for things in the Orzhov. And I think the most fun one was seeing the actual girl tear out pieces of it as they would. Or, in other cases, harder to read, they literally crumpled the paper here, which I thought was really fun to see. The last piece of the exhibition was the actual preview cards, and that's by having a very personal experience. The last is you could find something that could be immediately relevant for you to talk about after the show. So, they're changed every day, there was a new preview every day, and then they had a scrolling list of them in Japanese that you could get caught up in case you might have missed it a day or two before. With the actual release of Guilds of Ravnica explained there, it's kind of the end of the exhibition. All in all, it took me about 11 minutes just to walk through very, very quickly. Most people spent maybe half an hour to an hour going through, and that was the first time. Often people went through 1 or 2 times, because at the end, like any good Banksy exhibition here, you can exit through the gift shop. And these pieces were immediately the big thing on Tuesday. We had sleeves that were custom to this day. They sold out right away, and we had an allotment every day. Those sold out. Other pieces were available too. And right at the end, you could pick up your promo, and you were given a free postcard of Descendants Path, because of course you would. So that's the show.